Well, good morning, everybody. It is Monday, October 18th, 2021, and this is the Smart Networker, and I'm Dave Rolfe, and we're going to continue on the series that we're on building success. And today's lesson is a great lesson. This is something that you can use for anything that you want to build or create or develop, and it's on the subject of organization and organizing, and how to put everything together that you need to build or develop whatever it is you're trying to build or develop. And it was a tool that I found extremely useful. So I've created a PowerPoint. We're going to do that. We're going to follow down. And today's program is going to be a little interactive. So part of what we'll be doing is we'll do each one of the steps. Then I'm going to ask you to do them so that you get an idea of how to do it. And then that'll be a little practice for you. And then you can take it further from there. Also, a heads up that next week there will not be a call. And for those that are listening to this as a recording, that doesn't necessarily mean for you, but for those on live today, I'll be on a plane next Monday, so there will be no call, and then we'll follow it up the following week with the final lesson in this series on follow-up. So very exciting. So let's get into this PowerPoint. I'll share my screen. Okay, as you can see, there it is, slideshow from the beginning. Let's get organized. Oh, I keep forgetting to do this. Well, anyway, we'll be up at the top. Who cares? Let's get organized. October 2021. So, the Nikan business opportunity is like any other business endeavor in that it works when an individual applies the activities that are known and have been proven to work. So, if we don't know what makes it work, or what we have to do to make it work, then that needs to be a part of this as well. Now, your success depends on how well you learn and apply the successful activities based on who you are, your circumstances, and what you need to do to apply them. So let's take a look at our respective roles here to set this stage. And it's important to understand who does what in your relationship with Nikan. And this sometimes has been a confusing topic, but it's really quite simple. So what Nikan does is it's created the game. It's created the opportunity of what we do and play. It created what we call the compensation plan. It's the step-by-step activity. It produces the product or provides the products that are sold. It does research and development in that area as well. It also provides a web platform and a shopping cart. It delivers the products that are sold, and it does all the accounting, and it collects the income from that, and it then disperses commissions and pays incentives and provides a customer support system for customers and distributors alike, and keeps all databases. So if you go over that list and see what their role is, now let's turn it to what we do. So from the standpoint of being an independent distributor, our job is to promote and market the product. We need to find the customers. We need to find and sign up distributors. We need to sell and consume the products. And we promote and advertise the Nikan brand. We promote and advertise Nikan products. And basically, we're the ones that brings home the bacon. Okay? And this is very important so that we understand what our roles are, so we can focus in the right direction. Now, getting yourself organized, play to win, is the concept of what we want to do today. And basically, there's a number of activities that need to be looked at. We need to understand what they are and go over them. So first is you got to have a goal. And in this particular situation, the goal is something that you want to achieve, something you want to receive, something you want to get. And the next thing besides the goal is there's got to be the reason for the goal, and these would be minor reasons. And we'll get into this in example very quickly, so you will see how that all relates. Then we have your rules. How are you going to participate in this game? How are you going to play? And if we liken it to, say, football or baseball, they have rules, and you play by the rules of the game. And one of the things that I learned in being successful was, if you're going to play a game, or if you're going to be involved in a business, or you're going to or you're going to move to a country or do what the country wants, you got to play by the rules. If you don't play by the rules, then boy, you can get knocked around, beat up, and really end up in bad shape. So this is very important. What's the overall plan and strategy of how you're going to get this goal done? The roadmap, the step-by-step activity. What do you have to learn? How do you get trained? I mean, everything I've ever done in my life, in the sense of doing something, you had to learn what it was, how to do it. You had to get trained at it. There were specific skill sets you learned, and of course, all the prior videos that we've had are leading up to this to make this a little bit easier to understand and then follow through. Now, here's one of the biggest ones: orders, getting activities going. And we're going to understand what this is all about, what it means, and how to take advantage of it. The big picture view, what does it look like? And this, again, is another aspect that's important, and you're going to see how that comes into play. And then statistics, measurements of activity. This is one of those areas that I observed over time that was not being looked at, where people didn't understand what they were doing, and they had no way they didn't keep track of what they're doing, so they didn't have a way to measure their activity. And you'll see how this works down the line. And then the primary end result of your activities: what are you creating? What are you trying to build here? What are you, et cetera, et cetera. So let's get into the specifics. So how do we do this? So how to get organized and what's important to know and do. So as we go over each step, keep in mind whatever you put down must align with all other steps. Now, if your goal, for example, was to climb a mountain, then all other 9 points must help you to accomplish that goal. And all steps that will be listed identify everything that is required to create your success. And the basic idea is to go over these points until they all align and they make sense, and you've got your master plan, so to speak. So that's what we're going to do today together. And we're going to do it step by step, and I'll explain that, and it'll make it easy for you to follow. And then you'll have an example, and then you can then tweak it as time goes on. Okay, so let's do the first one. So what is your goal? Now, for today's purpose, we don't want to get too, esoteric, so to speak. So make a simple goal. Something that you want, and again, this is it's either something you want to accomplish, something you're trying to do. You're going somewhere. It could be short term. It could be long term. And then once you've got that written down, and I'll play along with you so we can see with it. I'm going on a trip next week to Montana. So that's the goal, is to, and this would have been done prior. It's already been done, but we'll put that down. So my goal is a trip to Montana, and that's a short-term goal. Now, in order for me to make this all happen, I have to convert. Well, what does that mean economically? What's the number? Because in Niken's plan, it's all based on numbers. If you've read the compensation plan, it's all numbers. Okay, so now basically dollars represent your creativity and help you measure results. So in this case, I'm going to Montana. It has a cost. So it has a cost for a hotel. It has a cost for airlines. It has a cost for car transportation, food, all that sort of stuff. So let's say, just as an example, the goal is to go to Montana, and we know it's going to cost me about $5,000. Okay, so there we go. So there's your goal. So in your particular case, you want to write down what your goal is. Now, it could be you want to, retire, you want to, you want a lifetime income, you want whatever it is. It doesn't matter because what this little gimmick is going to do for you is show you how you're going to get that goal, whatever that goal is. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Now, this is probably one of the most important aspects of this. This is not your why kind of a thing, but it's why do you have the goal? And it's usually associated with what you want, So I've got this goal to go to Montana. So why? Why am I going to Montana? Well, because we're getting together with a group of friends, to share some quality time and get away from all the maddening noise and be out in the middle of nowhere and have a good time. So that's really why we're going. It's not to just go to Montana. So in other words, if your goal is to make $10 million, it's not just necessarily make $10 million, but what's that going to do for you? What are you, take care of the family, pay the education, get rid of bills. In other words, there's got to be a purpose to the activity, because just doing the activity is a complete waste of time unless there's some reason for doing it. So, and it has to be clearly stated. In other words, it has to be important because that's your drive. So if I go back to my beginning, I needed to make $8,000 a month. And the reason the $8,000 was listed because I took the goal and turned it into an economic factor, and the deal was that was to pay for the family. It was to put a roof over our heads. It was to provide the food. It was to take care of the bills. It was to have a car. It was to, have everything necessary, and that's what it cost. That was the monthly cost of everything. So the reason for that $8,000 a month was that it was really important. That created the drive, and I was totally willing to go after it. And again, so if you're sitting down doing this, you say, well, my goal is to make $10 million. Well, why? What are you going to do with 10 million? What there's got to, so that you put that down. And for today's exercise, make it real simple. If it's, make $5,000 a month, fine. Why? To pay the bills and live your life. Okay, good. Now we got somewhere. All right. Now here's the next part. Now this was a huge lesson actually, and I've learned this many times, and I've observed this not being applied many times, especially here in Nikan. And that's the rules and abiding by and playing by. So I love to liken this to, I'm a football fan. So if we look at football, it has an incredible number of rules and regulations of how you play the game. Now you have 32 teams that are playing this game, and they all play by the same rules. But here's the interesting things: is they do it slightly differently. Now they again, whatever the rule is, they all need to play by that rule. They have to abide by it, but at the same time, they have the creative ability to develop what they want based on who they are and their team, etc., etc. So, what rules are you going to abide by? Now, for example, when I was doing this business, I said, okay, no TV. I'm up at 6. I'm out of the door. I don't come home until I've got a distributor, made a sale, whatever the case may be. I have to learn the Nikan compensation plan. I have to learn their policies and procedures, whatever it must be. And then the other things that we already talked about, I had to learn what to do, and then go do it. So what do you need to do? What do you not need to do to make this thing work? So you write down those rules. Maybe it's not watching 10 hours of TV a day. Maybe it's not going out. Maybe it's not, something. But this is how you will play the game. Now, next part of this is your basic overall plan. And this is just that kind of the general overview, because we're at the beginning stage of developing and creating this idea for yourself. And this is basically a general description of what your plans are and what you intend to do in order to reach the goal you have chosen. Now, in this particular case, you might be brand new, you're looking at this for the first time, you've made a decision to join the business, so it's to become a Nikan distributor and to build a distribution business. That's the basic plan. Now you could probably add in here your time frame, and then you could take a look at, well, how are you going to do this? Are you going to do it by building business builders or retail or a combination of both? And so it's just to kind of start to formulate the overall picture and the idea of where you want to go here. So this is the basic idea of what you're going to do. If I go back and look at what my plan was at that time, was I was going to do it full time right out of the gate. I was going to get up. I was going to build it, create the business builders and go for it. And that's what I wrote down, and away I went. Now this brings up the next, your roadmap. So about 3 weeks ago, we had roadmap and strategy as a lesson. So basically it was, okay, Nikan created the roadmap for you. And that's the plan. That's what we call our compensation plan. And it starts off at the base position. You sign up, you become a distributor, and then you work your way up the various steps that are laid out for you. And in this particular case, the direct, the executive, the silver, the gold, the platinum, diamond, royal diamond. Now, this is what I did. I looked at that plan when I first got involved and said, okay, here's where I'm going to start, and then I'm just going to go after each level. Put the blinders on, so to speak, and stay focused and do step after step after step. So understanding this roadmap will allow you to know what needs to be done to reach your goal. Because now, okay, what have we done so far? Well, we've picked your goal, we've got a number, and now we can take that number and we can apply it to this plan, and we can find out, well, where does that fit in this roadmap? In other words, if you said $8,000 a month, what has to be accomplished for you to make $8,000 a month? You see, and it becomes really quite simple, and it puts in reality and clarity of both activities and structure. You're going to see this coming up. Now, the next part is education. So from the standpoint of, all right, you've heard me say this probably 10 gazillion times, but what you don't understand, you will not do. What you don't understand, you won't talk about. And it's an interesting phenomenon that when and you'll hear this, you'll be talking to somebody and you'll say, I'd like to talk to you about blah blah blah. No, I'm not really interested in that. Or you tell somebody, you say, hey, how would you like to go, do something, whatever it is you want to do, and they don't like it, or they're not familiar with it, they don't understand what you have to do. No, I don't want to do that. And how many times have you talked to somebody about this business and they say, no, I'm not interested? Well, what I found over time in dealing with all these circumstances and talking to a gazillion people about our business and what we do was that it's what they don't understand that causes them to back away. And when you apply the right understanding, and they do understand through education, training, whatever methods you use, it changes the perspective. And so certain things had to occur in order to cause people to become interested to begin with. And we talked about this in the last lesson, but it started out with going after the product, and then that was kind of a tough thing to do because there was this incredible education required with the product. But then I added the aspect of earning an income at the same time. Well, all of a sudden everything changed because income was one of those things that was part of everybody's survival. So you needed to make money, so it was important. So when you added that little piece, then all of a sudden the need to learn became different. In other words, it was more, wow, I need to know this so I can talk about it so I can make the money versus I need to know this so I can buy it, kind of a concept. So the education then, training, extremely important in the sense of what we do to move forward. So I'm going to be a little biased here because this is my site and my training, but I wrote an article that's on the webpage called 10 Things You Need to Know. Very important. I wrote a book called Vested Interest back in 1990. And again, very important. It just covers the core concepts. We're doing the same thing slightly differently, but we're accomplishing the same feat. Smart Networker was a digital version of the Vested Interest book, which is on daverolf.com. And then now we're doing the Business Success Series, and these are all activities that you need to know. So the more you know and understand, the easier it is to apply and do. I mean, that's what I've learned growing up, and so these are important things. So if you understand you have to do it and it's important, then you put it on your wish or tick list to get it done, and you do it. And it's part of being organized. It's part of being successful. Okay. Joining support groups, social media knowledge, other training, communication skills, how to tell your story, reading. I mean, all these things help you to build a successful business. So you got to do that education piece. So you write the things down that you need to do. And now, again, this will play into something coming up, and that is act like the boss. So if you look at it, if you've ever worked for anybody and you go into work, guess what they tell you? They tell you what to do. Interesting, isn't it? So if you work for somebody, they tell you what to do. If you work for yourself, boy, there's nobody to tell you what to do except you. So one of those things that I learned was I had to tell myself to get going. I had to give myself the orders. So I had to kind of write it all down and play that game and create the activities because, and here's why, activities create results. So, so in the early days, they used to talk about in this business, well, you can work in your pajamas, because you do a lot of phone work and so on and so forth. Well, I tried working in my pajamas. However, it just didn't seem as professional. So I remember I'd left the business for a while, and I did a corporate deal, and I had a corporate office. I had a number of offices, 9 offices around the country, hundreds of employees, and that was the wireless deal. And anyway, that we finished that opportunity, and I went home, and I semi-retired, so to speak, and had this opportunity to come back to Nikan, which I did. So what I did was I went into my garage and I kind of emptied out a big space. I got a nice piece of carpet. I threw it down the floor. I put up some fake walls. I put up pictures. I put in a desk. I put in a credenza, and it looked like an office. So when I'd walk out of the back of my house into the garage, it was like walking out of my house into my office. And, I had the panoramic view. I could open the garage doors, and there you had this large view, and, light coming in and all that sort of stuff. But the idea was I had to give myself the order to start. I had to give myself the order to do. And for somebody that's never done this business, this is one of those areas that you want to learn to do really quickly, because it's the orders that create the activity. The first order, put together a list, go talk to somebody, all of those kind of things. Anyway, so you create that. So give yourself the orders. What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? When are you going to start? How are you going to do it? All those kind of things. Okay. Now, this is a very interesting thing. And it's, what does your goal look like? So as an example, if you went to an architect to build your house, what would the architect do for you? He'd create a picture of the house. And then from there, he'd create plans and they'd build it. But the idea behind knowing what you want looks like is to understand the difference from where you are now to where you're going to go. In other words, it's not what you've already accomplished, it's what have you got left to do. And it's an interesting aspect of that. I'm going to show you some pictures so you get this idea. But you have a goal to set, so you create a visual picture of it and then put it on the wall. So let's say this is the big picture, and at the top here it's got these are legs, leg 1, leg 2, leg 3. So it's platinum, gold, gold, and it's got volumes associated with, and it's got number of consultants beside each number, so that you've got a total viewpoint. So here the total is to do 70,000 points per month, and you have 59 consultants. But here's what the picture looks like. Now, here's one of those interesting things that I ran into was Nikon and businesses like Nikon do not have physical structure. Now, if I said to you, let's talk about Starbucks, or if I said to you, let's talk about McDonald's, or if I said to you, let's talk about Ford Motor Company, or if I said to you, let's talk about Exxon or Mobil or Shell Oil gas stations, you would instantaneously have a mental picture of those things. But if I said, okay, I want you to get a picture of a platinum distributorship, if you've never built a platinum distributorship, you'd have no idea what it looks like. You know, you may have a theory or an idea, but again, these were important things. So this allowed one to see where they need to work, why they need to work, how it works. It did a number of things. This is what I was taught at the very beginning. So it was an important aspect of, you know, the big picture. Now, let's take a look at the lesser pictures, the individual along the way pictures, like going silver, and what you have to do, and with the right qualifications. So you have to have 100 ppv, you need 1500 pgv, and then you need 4000 ov to get paid. And so here's a picture of what that might look like, and what then one could earn as a result of it. And what this also tells you is where you work, down here, down here. And then again, we move forward to the next one. This is a gold. There's a little typo up there, but anyway, here's the picture of a gold, and the volume, and the legs, and what it looks like, and again, where to work. Very, very important. Okay, you'll be able to come back and look at that. All right, so now, again, just a quick story before I get into the next part. So what I did was I got a big poster board, you know, one of those 3x5 things, and I put it on a tripod, and it was sat in my office, and it was what I needed to do. It was the goal, and it was up there, and it had circles on it, and when I got the job done, I colored them in, and I put names on there. And so every morning when I sat down in my office, like I am now right now, I would have this picture to look at. So my focus would be, as I got to get that. That's my target today. That's what I'm going to do today. And you've heard my story many times of going from diamond to royal diamond. Each and every month was to complete royal diamond. It took me 2 years to get there. Very worth it, but it was, I was focused because I had that picture there. Okay, now next part of this getting organized aspect is your statistics, which is measurements of activity. This was something I discovered while I was building the business, and people would reach the goal, say silver, and that was we're going to find out. I want you to, silver is going to be a very important position to stay focused on. But anyway, I asked them, well, how did you get silver? I don't know, I went out and made a mess. And then I thought to myself, wow, that's interesting. They don't know how they got there. They made a mess. How are they going to teach others to do that? Are they going to go tell them, go make a mess? What does that mean? Or are they going to have specific instructions? And so on and so forth. So I got into the idea. I'd been using statistics for most of my career anyway, because I learned it in another arena for another purpose. And so here's the bottom line of the statistics. All activities can be measured. So no matter what your job is, okay, what your position is, what you do, the do part can be measured. Let's say you're a receptionist, and you answer phone calls. So then what's your productivity? What are you producing? Answering phone calls, getting them routed to the right place, and making sure that the calls are connected. So you could keep those numbers, and you could then measure that person's performance if you were an executive and running the business. And so the nice thing about this is they give you information that can be compared to other information, and then direction can be given. So let's take a look at that. So here we have this relationship of volume to income. So this is really simple. Obviously, the more volume that you have, the more income can be generated. Not necessarily always going to follow, because you could have volume but a special. You could have high volume and less income being generated from. So let's break it down to other activities. So you've got your customer calls, you've got your texts, you've got your follow-ups, you've got your emails, and then so you've got your total that you're outflowing, and then you've got your number of sales made. Now relate that to your volume and your income, and you start to see some relationships. And what's fascinating about doing this is then you're able to see what works and what doesn't work. Now, and again, this is really, really important, because again, we're not playing tiddlywinks here. This is a business, and if you make mistakes, you might not get where you want to get. And if you do the right things, then you can get what you want to get. And let me tell you, they are incredible. And success in this business is absolutely outstanding. and it's all doable, and anybody can do it. There are no restrictions. So you want to keep track of everything you do. And the reason you want to keep track of it, so you can tell the next person that comes along what you did to get there. And that's how I learned the business. Was I went to a very successful person. I said, well, what did you do? And he told me exactly what he did. So I took that information and I applied it. And lo and behold, that's what we did. And then I kept doing that. So I built my first leg. We built it deep. We created 4 silvers in a row. I hit the volume. I didn't make a whole bunch of money, but the structure was there. But I had the story to then go tell somebody else. Well, here's what I did for them, and this is what we can do for you. And we did it. And I just repeated that. And then we did it the third time. And so I met my goal that I had set out to make my $8,000 a month in my 4th month. And it was simply purely by understanding the plan, understanding what to do, going out and doing it, and then repeating it. So rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Okay, there you go. So if you understand what you're doing, it works. Okay, so let's just look at this, for example. So customer texts doesn't seem to be creating much activity in this particular example. But what is creating the results? What looks similar to this is this graph. And obviously this one, but it's this one here. So this particular activity, which is going to be our next lesson, seems to be related most to why the volume went up and why the gross income went up. So now, again, you do a lot of things. You make calls, you knock on doors, you follow up with friends, you go to meetings, you're on these Zoom calls all the time, etc., etc. What works, what doesn't work? So you keep track of it so that you can evaluate it. And again, making these graphs is real simple. If you're on a PC, use Excel. And if you're on a Mac, I don't know, you'll have to find out. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, the last piece of this puzzle. What are you trying to create? What are all your efforts making so that you've got something to exchange? Okay, so it's the end result of all your efforts that actually produces a valuable product that can be exchanged for other products. So, for example, Tesla produces electric cars and it exchanges them for cash. Now, if the product wasn't good, then no one would buy them. And all of Tesla's efforts and strategies go into supporting the idea of delivering the best product that they can so people will buy them, right? So this idea is the same for you. So you've got your goal, your purpose, your plan, the strategy, your orders, your education. All of these things are putting together, but what are they trying to accomplish? Okay. So if you're building the business, It's to make a direct distributor? Is it to make an executive distributor? Is it to make a silver distributor, a gold, a platinum, a diamond, a royal diamond? Or a successful independent Nikan distributor? So what we want to understand here is your activities are creating what, so that you stay focused on what you're producing. Now, just a little hint here, the building block of our compensation plan was the silver distributor. And it, in my opinion, still is the silver distributor. So all your efforts are going to develop that silver. Why? Because that's the independent distributor that's reached some success. They're at the beginning of the leadership levels, and they've taken responsibility. They've learned some things to do. They're taking it on as a business. And again, let's go back to a couple lessons ago. How does this business work? Well, it works when somebody buys the product, or it works when somebody joins you and do the business. How do you make money doing this business? When somebody else does something. So if your goal was to make, say, $5,000 a month, then you need people that are active, that are building the business to create that for you. And that's the essence of how simple it is. So you then have to have a focus. So one of the things that I focused on was building silvers. And again, you saw on the map, you saw the structure of it, so I knew that I had to build some depth. And you go over this over and over and over and over again, and pretty soon it becomes very clear what you do and how you put it together. But this little guy, these 10 points, will kind of give you what you need to put everything together. So, the summary of this. The success in this business is created and built when you understand what needs to be done. You learn how to apply it. You go out and apply it. Then you monitor how you're doing. You eliminate what doesn't work, and you strengthen what does work. And you persist until you reach your goal. And all of those 10 points, if you go back to the beginning of this, are designed for you to do exactly this. So ways to monitor, ways to look, ways to understand where you are and what you need to do, ways to learn what has to be done, all of those kind of things. And all of this, your success in this business is accomplished by this and how you get yourself organized. All right. Well, thank you very much for being on today's call. Our next lesson is going to be on follow-up, and I'm going to stop the screen share, and then we're going to end the record, and then we're going to get into any Q&A that you might have to finalize this aspect. So let me do that. Let me stop this. So thanks for being here today, and we'll see you on the next lesson.